Hello, everyone. Welcome back. My name is Jeff Mendelson, and this is the One Big Tip podcast. And today, my guest is Guy Rozman. Guy is the founder of Mediaflowzz, a PPC agency for global e-commerce brands and tech startups. He's an online advertising professional with a demonstrated track record of bringing exceptional growth results. For over 10 years, Guy has been working with some of the world's leading businesses to do just one thing: grow their revenues with high impact digital advertising campaigns. He has also successfully led teams at two of the world's fast growing tech companies, Fiverr and Yotpo. So we're going to talk about that a little bit today. It's going to
For
be a
sure.
lot of fun. Guy, thank you so much for joining me. I know it's late by you. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, I'm still awake, so thanks for having me. And it's all good here in Thailand currently.
I love it. Can you
Yeah,
please fill us in a little bit about your background and how you got to where you are today? You've been in a number of Israeli tech startups, and
yeah,
as we were talking in the pre-call, every Israeli tech startup is basically a global company, right?
yeah,
It's almost none of them are really focused on, Israel's a small country, right? They're all focused on doing global scaling brands. So can you tell
yeah,
me a little bit about that experience and how you got to work with MediaFlows?
for sure. So, in Israel, it is a small market. So, companies and tech companies, especially, where when they want to grow and scale, so they would definitely look for the global markets. And there is a very strong ecosystem of startup and venture capital here in Israel. So for me, I started, as a PPC campaign manager in a Israeli digital marketing agency. We used to work with Israeli companies, and then after like a few years, we started to work with startups and tech companies that were growing here in Israel. And I got to manage the PPC department, and I hired, the team. I got to work with a lot of interesting companies, a lot of interesting professionals. And after a few years of doing that, I switched, side, and I started working in those same companies. So I got the chance to work on Fiverr, which is a marketplace for professional services. The place where you can get basically anything. It used to be $5. Now it's a bit more than that, but you can still get pretty much everything you want, like a graphic, a video, whatever you need. And then I shifted and worked in Yotpo, which is a tool for e-commerce businesses. It's a marketing tool. And also I did paid acquisition, user acquisition, did a PPC, ran Facebook ads, Google ads, etc. Um, and after a while, when I finished my role there, so I decided that I really want to do something of my own. I really loved PPC. I loved managing teams. I loved doing digital marketing strategy. So I decided, hey, why not, do it for my own with the companies, that I will recruit, and this is it. Like I started working with a few companies that I knew that heard about me, freelancing at start, for a year, something like that. Then COVID hits, and everybody's in the house, everybody's remote, but everybody needs digital marketing and PPC. So I hired a team and founded MediaFlowzz. And this is what we do right now. Like we work remote, we work with tech companies, we work with e-commerce businesses, mostly Israeli, but market globally. And we're open to work like with all of the companies wherever they are, obviously. And focusing on the PPC, doing Google, Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever is needed to grow.
That's a really amazing scope because
Mhm.
basically what you're talking about is you are helping global companies market in a global marketplace. Now, before that sounds really cliche, think about it. Doing that same type of PPC marketing in the UK is
Mhm.
not the same as doing it in the US or in other English speaking countries. And even regionally here in the United States, you also have to be a little cognizant of buying trends and, what people are looking for. And, it really comes down to knowing your market, but also knowing how to, how to craft your message, right?
Yeah,
And that is super, super important, because it's not just a question of putting an ad up so that people can see it and hoping that they're going to click on it. You really have to think about the entire flow, from the time that you put the ad up, that the targeting, that the right people are going to see it at the right time, and then they're going to need to land on a page that
yeah.
actually answers the question, or it prompts them to take action based on that ad that you just put up. Let's talk about that a little bit,
Mhm.
because like writing ad copy and figuring out your avatar in all of these different markets, that is a major, major undertaking, right?
Yeah. So for
uh,
sure.
how does that look like how does that look like to you?
So I think that after doing it for all of these years, I developed framework that is working, for me, for us. Uh, it's been tested, and one thing that I can say is that you're right. Like, there's a lot of differences between the UK market and the US market and the Canadian market, and even within regions, within these countries, because it's such a huge market, right? Even in Israel, there is a difference between the south of Israel and the north of Israel, but there's also a lot of similarities. So across all of these geolocations, in the end of the day, there's a lot of similarities between people that have pains and that are looking for products that will help them ease the pain, or they have desires and they want stuff. So the idea, is to create some sort of framework, or a process that will help to unravel these desires, and craft this imaginary avatar, and then create the messaging that will resonate with that avatar. So I would say that the first step that we take is really to do this research, like really deep dive research. And we start, with the product. What is the product? Okay, what is the market that we're looking at? Like, we start big, okay, it's the US market, but maybe it's certain states within the market. Maybe it's, I don't know, maybe it's female, maybe it's male, maybe it's different age groups. What are the interests, right? We also look at the competition, what our other advertisers are doing. So we do this research, again, to go over the market, to go over the competition, to try to start understanding the audience, but really high level. So this, I would say, is the step one. Step two would be to understand the audience better. And what I've been doing, like, for the last couple of years, and was really beneficial for me, is to go over user-generated content. So it's mostly reviews. If it's a company that already has a reviews, so I would go and look in the bad reviews, good reviews, and gather as much information as I can. And I would also go and look at the competitors' reviews, because sometimes, if it's the same product, I want to get as much information and data as I can, like, qualitative data on that specific product, why people buy it, why people don't buy it, what they like, what they don't like. And after I have, like, a big list of a lot of reviews, so you see that things come up, right? So, for example, we're promoting like a virtual assistant app right now, and I did this process, and I saw that a lot of the phrases that came up was about the to-do list, right? So people are enjoyed using this app to get things off their to-do list, or to save time, and do and outsource stuff that they don't want to do. So coming up with this insight is great, because if I see that people are writing it in their reviews, so now I can use it, and I can use the language of the actual person who's going to use this app, and not some imaginary lingo, marketing lingo that I came up with and I think it's cool, you know. So I would say, like, this is the initial phase of the research, the market research and the audience research.
You know what's really cool about reviews is that
Mhm.
it really is a gold mine of information,
Yeah,
right? It really is, something, and you're going to get such honesty out of those reviews, because people don't really take time to write reviews for their health. They do it either because they're really pissed off or
yeah,
they're really happy with you, right? One of the two. And, no one's going to go out and write a review because, oh, yeah, these guys are okay, right?
yeah, for
It's like
sure.
if they're okay, then yeah, you did your job and like, okay, move on. Right. But what happens is that when you're using that language, when you're using the reviews, and I really like that idea of going to your competitors and categorizing those reviews as well, because it really gives you a good cross section of information of how to start out. Right. And all of that information, by the way, is freely available. You just need to dig for
Mhm.
it a little bit. Right. You don't have to get any fancy tools. You don't have to get any uh, you don't have to do it really anything special except for do the work, right?
For sure, 100%. And it's time consuming. It takes some time, but it's like 2 hours of work, and you get so much knowledge that it saves you so much time later, because instead of just guessing, and come up with again like fancy jargon or fancy marketing lingo, and it never works. It's always the ads that work are the ads that uses the language of the actual avatar. So this is why I think the reviews is such a powerful tool. And again, it's available, it's free, like nobody's hiding them, everybody's showing them off. So why not use it, to craft that message for you? So this
Okay,
would
so
be,
beautiful. So now that you have this information, right?
yeah,
You've been able to research what the product is, what the competitor's product is. You look at price points, things like that. What comes next? What's the next part
yeah,
of that framework?
cool. So after I have this information, so the next thing that I will do, I would use the magic formula of ad creation. And this is actually something that I learned with some of my session with the Facebook reps. And this is something they advocate, and I really like. I really like this framework, and it really helps me, because I'm not a great copywriter. I'm not a great creative thinker. I'm a more of a PPC guy, very analytical guy. So I need processes in order for that to work. So I will reveal this magic formula for you, so everybody can enjoy it. So basically, there is three components for a successful ad. So one is the value prop. What's the customer is getting out of it? Okay. What is the one thing, the main benefit? It can be more than one, but usually when it's one, it's focused. So this is the first part, the value prop. What's in it for the customer? The second component is the reason to believe. Like, why should the customer believe your claim? Okay. If I'm saying, yeah, I will save time for you, how can he believe that it's true? And I'm not just saying that.
I want to interrupt you right here because this
Yeah,
is
for
something
sure.
I haven't really heard in those words, and I want to make sure that we're getting this right. The
Cool.
reason to believe.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, all right. So first of all, that's golden, right? That's a great phrase because you really do need, because it's one thing to say like, yeah, we're number one.
Yeah.
Really, brother? Really? Tell me,
Everybody's
why are
saying
you
that.
number one? Yeah, everyone's saying that. So are you
Yeah.
talking about social proof? Are you talking about, maybe citing some outside study that says you are in
Yeah.
fact the best? Like what does that reason to believe look like to you?
Yeah. So there's a lot of ways to prove that you're legit. You mentioned out two that are very powerful and prominent. A lot of companies use it. A lot of companies would use a testimonial, right? If I see someone that looks like me, tells me that the product is great and it will actually save me time, okay, so maybe I will believe it, because I also have this connection, right? Like, I'm connecting to another human, and I believe that what he's telling me is legit. So this is definitely one very powerful way to generate this trust, and give me the reason to believe. Okay, it works for him, it will also work for you. So this is definitely one thing. And yeah, it can be studies. I was working with a company that is selling air purifiers, and there's actually a study that just came out that proved that their air purifier was very effective against COVID. So when you get a very powerful study like that, that is, scientifically proven, definitely very strong reason to believe, right? Like I would go for that. So this is another example. Another thing could be, mention of in an article or in a publisher that is very well known. Maybe influencer, that a celebrity, celebrity or influencer that recommends your product. This is another way to create this trust. And another way that I really like, and I also consider it as a reason to believe, is basically how it works. So if I have, some great project management tool, and I tell you, this is very easy, it will save you time, it will be very efficient. If I will show you a short video that tells you exactly how it works, like 1, 2, 3, so you will say, okay, I want to save time. Okay, this is how it works. Yeah, you got me. I'm ready to try. So this is another very effective way to get this message across.
Okay, so great. So now that you have the reason to believe, right?
Yes.
You were able to come up with the with the great headline that's
Mhm.
using colloquial words, not some marketing lingo. What's the third part? Like
Yeah.
how do you finish that off in order to create a great ad in such a short amount of space,
Yes.
like character count and all that.
Yeah, for sure. So, when we're thinking about either Google ads or Facebook ads, when you scrolling down your feed and you just have like a split second to get someone's attention. So you definitely want, to start it with a very strong value prop to get him in, reason to believe, to like rationally convince him why he wants or why he needs this product. And then the last part is pretty straightforward, call to action, CTA, right? You have to tell that human being what to do next. Okay, so if it's an app, maybe you want to download it now. If it's jewelry, maybe you want to shop now. Maybe you want to, I don't know, enjoy a sale or a discount. If it's another kind of, software, okay, maybe you want to sign up. Maybe you want him to sign up. Maybe you want him to sign up for a newsletter. Whatever your goal is, but make sure that you clearly state it in the ad. Because in the end of the day, you want the click, but you want the human or the person to understand that, okay, if I click this ad, what happens next? Now, obviously, everything is happen, in split second decisions, right? So you want to be very, very clear. And you can either go for something very general and very generic, like start now, or download, or shop today, something like that, because we've seen it so many times. We're so used to it, and it works. It definitely works. And you can also be a bit more creative. Like I don't have like a idea up top of my head, but you can customize it a little bit to your specific product. Like start a 14-day free trial and use this app or whatever.
You know what's really interesting about that is, Russell Brunson says, "A confused mind does not buy."
Oh,
Right?
for sure.
And that is so important because, when you think about it, if you just break down, like these three facets of your magic formula for writing ad copy, right? It sounds almost too simple. It's like, really,
Mhm.
like, oh, I'm just going to write this down and I'm going to tell you why it's great and I'm going to tell you how to do it. You wouldn't believe the amount of people and companies put together marketing material that does not hit on those three basic items,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
They'll create a website that looks like a brochure, that doesn't lead them to a sale, that doesn't lead them to take an action, that doesn't lead them to
Mhm.
download their lead magnet, or for them to install the app. They think they just put it out there and everyone's going to naturally just understand what it is I'm supposed to do and why I'm supposed to be there. And if you have something that is really dead easy to do, okay, great. God bless you. You hit on a great product, right? But most products and services are not like that. So they really do need, that framework to go through in order to get people to take an action. And usually that action, the simpler, the better, right? If
Yeah.
you tell somebody that they have to fill out this long form in order to get
Yeah.
started with your free product, dude, that's not going to work. Right. It's like, oh, by the way, I got you to click on it and I'm on my phone and, I happen to be jogging or at the gym or whatever. Oh, by the way, you have to fill out these 7 fields in order to get started with my app. No, that's not going to work.
No.
You have to make that onboarding process easy. You have to make it memorable and you have to make it fast. Right. In your experience, after you have implemented this framework and have been able to, take a product from where they were to where they are now,
Yeah.
what has been the net result? Like after you were able to change all that around, what
Yeah.
what kind of results have you seen after you applied that framework to them?
So, we work mostly with companies that are in the growth phase. So, in that growth phase, you spend a lot of money and you try a bunch of stuff and then you optimize, right? Because even if you use this amazing formula, you will write ad copy that will not work. You will never know exactly why, but you will come up with a few variations, right? And you will start running tests and you will optimize because you will understand things while you do it. So we can start, let's say, with 4 ads, and then you see that 2 ads are successful and 2 ads are not. So maybe you're going to pause those 2 ads, and you're going to take the successful ad and you say, okay, let's create some variation. Instead of a yellow background, let's try green background, or let's try a different CTA. And you can play around with these different components. You can try benefit A, with a CTA C or whatever, and you can really mix and match. And in the past, again, like we saw great results in a lot of cases. So one case study that I can really go back to is when I was working with Yotpo. So we really invested heavily in Facebook ads at the time. It was a few years ago, and we were never successful in Facebook before, but we really wanted to try and do it better. So we did a bunch of things. Like the first thing was to actually set goals and expectations. Like we really wanted to see, okay, if we need to generate the lead, what is the cost per lead that we want to aim for? Who is the audience? How are we going to get to that audience? We used a lot of lookalikes and we used the data that we had in order to reach the audience of the e-commerce professional that we were targeting. And the ad that we created was very simple around specific features. Okay, so a feature that went out that year was the visual user-generated content. Was about get your images, from Instagram and use it on your marketing. And we saw that this feature was very successful, so we created ads around that. And we also created ads with testimonials. So we took real testimonials, real results from our customers, and we generated ads around those. So we took a few of them. We tried, a lot of different variations. And I tell you, the result in the end of the year was amazing. So first of all, we were able to scale the budget. We were, let's say, to double the budget. So this is one thing on Facebook ads. But in terms of revenue, we generated something like 8x, so times 8 the revenue for that year with only doubling the budget. So it means that we really were able to hit the right audience with the right messaging that resonated, generated those leads, and then those leads, went through the sales funnel and they actually converted to real business.
That is an amazing case study. I
Yeah,
mean, think about it.
yeah,
You doubled your budget, but you 8 times your revenue,
yes,
right?
yes,
So that is
yes.
wow, let's turn up the volume
Success.
even more,
Yes.
and what happens is that when you can bring those kind of results, to a startup, though, that's really life changing. That's what brings a business, from a 7-figure business to to an 8 or 9-figure business,
Mhm.
because you're able to scale something like that as soon as you figure out that formula. And that
Yeah,
formula, it is hard to hit, but once you got it, then you can just, pour some gasoline on it and
yeah,
everything goes up. So
yeah. It's true, but it's always harder, right? Like than it seems, because the idea about paid advertising is that it's very easy to start. Like everybody can start doing Facebook ads. There's no barriers of entry, and it's very easy to spend the money on the platform. But it's going to be very hard to get the returns that you want. And this is the game that we're playing. Everybody wants to have a successful campaign that you can just raise the budget and you're golden, right? But it's very hard to do. It's very hard to get. Like for every opportunity, and every success story, there's a lot of failures, right? Like a lot of times that it didn't work out. And also for Yotpo, a lot of campaigns that we tried along the way didn't work out. So we had to kill them, but we had to always focus on optimize what worked. So in order to find that thing that is working and is scalable, you really need to work very hard, to create a lot of different variation, try a lot of stuff, and just continue and keep going, and hopefully you don't run out of the budget while you do it.
I love it. Thank you so much for
Yeah,
sharing that.
for sure.
Guy, to close this out, can you please tell everyone where they can learn more about your company and how they can reach out to you directly?
Yes, for sure. So first of all, you can visit us at mediaflowzz.com. You can read our blog. You can fill out the form if you want to have a chat. And you can also find me on LinkedIn, Guy Rozman, LinkedIn. I'm pretty active recently there, so you can connect with me, and yeah, let's talk.
You got it, man. Guy, thank you so much for joining me today. This has been a lot of fun. I
Yes,
love nerding out on PPC stuff,
for sure. Me
and
too.
this is great. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.